Well, how many arguments did you get into over the weekend about Ukraine? Hopefully none, because there's nothing we can do to solve this whole thing. But I am here to tell you today, because I went through this all weekend too, and it's amazing that this story happened with the White House visit on Friday, and it only picked up and gained steam and attention throughout the entire weekend. Very few stories actually do that. But I'm here to tell you, though, there's a way to look at this that will make a lot more sense to you. And that's probably the best we can do right now. There really is. If you kind of like reframe this whole thing in your mind, it'll make a lot more sense. Way more. And I regret to inform you that Hollywood and the Oscars, that they're gone. They're gone forever. Gone. Forget it. Gone. I had hope. I had hope last night. I had hope into the Oscars show last night that it was going to be okay. And we're like, all right, well, maybe they're getting better. No. They got to him. Boston has an awful, awful mayor who said probably the dumbest thing in public I've ever seen in my life. But it's okay, because there are some infuriating things that happen in the news that get picked up nationally that are a regional thing. Like the people in Boston can tell you how bad and how woke and how awful and clueless this child mayor they have is. But when it becomes a national story and gets really picked up, that's when things change. That's where it's going to be okay. You won't believe what she said over the weekend. What a weekend of news, by the way. But thanks for finding me, and I hope it was a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Wicked Radio. Thanks for finding the audio podcast as well as the live stream. And by the way, you audio listeners, we're live every single day at about 8 a.m.-ish when the wind is with us on X and Facebook and YouTube as well. And the audio podcast always available right after the show, usually 9 a.m. Eastern time. Right when wherever you like to get your podcasts, and that's been growing. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, I wasn't going to actually lead off with this, but it kind of blends into everything else. So we might as well. I, like millions of others, I'm sure, I don't know what the ratings are going to be, saw a lot of the Oscars last night. I know you're shocked. If you know me, you are shocked. There was a, 5-year stretch. I didn't watch it at all. You know when it was really bad? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Pre-COVID, through COVID, even after, just the Oscars were just, and I wasn't alone because the ratings were just awful. They picked up a little last year, it appears. More people were into it because they got less with the politics. A little less, right? Now, the year that Ricky Gervais hosted was just awesome because he made fun of Hollywood. So it was picking up a little bit, gained some momentum. And there I was last night, because my girls in the house love watching the Oscars. It's like their Super Bowl, so it's always on. It's like, don't dare change that TV. So I'm watching it, sticking around and watching some of this. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not that bad. It is what it is, right? And I know there were some things, and I did see the red carpet. I saw a video of this, actually, where there's some people with the matching Ukraine outfits. Some people had the yellow pants and the blue tops, and then they all found each other, and they took pictures in the red carpet. Oh, whatever, fine, who cares? Whatever, big deal. And what was it, Daryl Hannah? She got up there and she was presenting something to somebody, and she gets up there and some sort of go Ukraine thing. Again, fine, whatever. It's fine. It's it's harmless. It is what it is, and it was okay. I didn't see a lot of these movies. I'm sure you didn't either, but the show itself was okay. And I'm watching because I love Conan. I've always loved Conan O'Brien. I'm watching. He's going on and on. He's doing a pretty good job. I thought he had some funny lines. And then this
great news: 2 wins already. I guess Americans are excited to see somebody finally stand up to a powerful Russian.
Oh, they got him. They got to him. Because I will guarantee you that he didn't put that in there. There are certain lines, there are certain jokes, certain themes, I think, that the writers and the producers of the Oscars and all these award shows insist that the host works in. It's part of an agreement. I know exactly what that was. That's exactly what it was. It's almost like during the show, hey, we're going too mainstream here. We can't have that. You know that old expression, there are no coincidences, like they just don't exist? I saw that. I'm like, okay, here. They even got Conan. They got him. They got him to say that. I know they did. I'll guarantee you, I don't know for sure. We'll never find out for sure, ever. But I'll almost guarantee you that was force-fed to him. Either pre-production or right there in the show. Because they actually will write some lines during the show. And I'm thinking, oh, God, here we go. This is where it turns. It was about the halfway point of the show. And then who comes in next? Who does Conan introduce? Mark Hamill. Now, if you know Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, there is it's tough competition. But there's not a lot of people that are more anti-Trump than Mark Hamill. There's just not. That's by design. That just happens. If you know enough about entertainment industry, you know that these things are by design. So the so the anti-Trump joke leads into anti-Trump Mark Hamill, so that Mark didn't have to make the statement on his own, and Conan takes the heat for it. It's just all crap. Just the same deal. It's the same crap. I don't know. Will it do well? I bet the ratings probably actually will be pretty good on this. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe. But I think Hollywood's lost. It's just gone. It's just, if you thought that this would be the year where they're just not going to make their statements and they're not going to force feed those lines, no, that's just not going to happen. It's just not. So take them what they are. They're entertainers. That's what they are. Just laugh at them. And how about the crowd, by the way? Conan made that joke. You can hear at the very beginning. It's amazing how it turns. And they're all like this, all of the Hollywood phonies. When he first made the joke about standing up to Russia, they all went, ooh. And then you could hear it. They looked around to see. And then, that's the Hollywood accepted thing to say. Yeah, we support it now, yeah. But they didn't do that at first. They looked around to see if that was the acceptable thing. And they looked at their producers and their publicists to see if that was okay. Such clowns. They're just these vapid, empty, idiotic clowns, that entire industry. And they always have been and they always will be. It's just what it is. So take them what they are. Don't take them seriously. But that's Hollywood, folks. That's show business. And now we know. All right. Let's talk about what everybody was talking about over the weekend. The meeting that melted down. This is truly incredible. So this was, like I said in the introduction there, that White House visit from Zelensky. First of all, happened on Friday, and it's only picked up steam. Yeah, I think it's just, the Oscars happening this weekend where they picked it up again, and they kept the news story going, helped. But this is one of those rare stories that had such a reaction from so many people that it actually was a bigger story as of last night and this morning than it was when it happened on Friday, which is strange because if you follow news cycles, they usually dump stories or events happen on Friday when nothing's going on or they're trying to bury something. So it's kind of weird. Usually early in the week, big things happen. Trump's schedule's a little bit different. So on Friday, Zelensky comes to the White House, and it started off. I saw this clip. Did you see him greet him in the driveway of the White House in classic Trump style?
Pretty shut.
He's all dressed up today.
And the look on Zelensky's face when he's doing that too. He's like a little guy too, because he's the joke being he wasn't in the pretend uniform, the army uniform. He was like in some what was that, by the way? Some black outfit, but still not a suit. Not a suit showing up at the White House. I guess he's trying to make a statement there that he's not going to be bossed around. But then the meeting happens, televised before the world. And it was fascinating. If you want to just take sides out of this whole thing, to be able to see the leader of the free world, along with the VP, and a guy that's involved with probably the biggest news story in the world right now, hash it out and hammer it out before the world. We all want, I'm always clamoring for transparency, so I loved it just to see this thing happen. I didn't like how Zelensky handled himself, and there's a lot of people, even Trump supporters, not happy with how Trump and Vance handled it. But it was an amazing thing to see, I'll tell you that much. Let's get to J.D. Vance's pushback on Zelensky so far, because the little guy in the black outfit was getting very rude here. And this is key to the entire story to understand exactly what the hell happened. Here's J.D. Vance on the pushback.
The kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are
Mr.
not
President,
strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
And then he started that, and there you go. That have you been to Ukraine? Come to front line. And I'm glad J.D. Vance pointed it out right after that clip ended, right there. What happened after that was, I've seen the propaganda missions. I've seen it. And we've all seen it too. Back to Hollywood, all the actors he brought over. Remember the Ben Stiller thing and the Sean Penn and the other. And they were there before the world leaders to show them, all the different things. The propaganda trip, which I imagine happens in every single war that's ever happened, right? Propaganda and the fog of war is a big part of this thing. But he goes right to that line. Well, have you been to Ukraine to see the problem? Yeah, we know. Everybody gets it. And I'm the vice president. I'm not going to be a pawn in your next propaganda trip. I'm not going to do it. And then it got even ruder. And then he even pushed back even more to the point where Trump finally said, literally in his words, we're done. We're offering you a peace plan. Zelensky had zero interest, and I've seen this clip. I think I've watched this like 15, 16 times already. Zero interest in any kind of a peace plan. Because again, if you're reframing to look at how he approached this thing, that wasn't his plan, was it? He had no interest in any kind of a peace plan. You know why in a second here. This is the moment where Trump said, yeah, okay, this is...
People are very brave, but you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough.
Yep, you've seen enough, all right. That was it. And the story started to leak out on Friday, if you follow this thing. Trump has kicked Zelensky out of the White House. A lot of conservative outlets said this. I said, well, that's okay. He didn't kick him out of the White House. No, he did. He literally... He said that's it. Trump and Vance went that way. Zelensky went that way. They were told, White House staff was told to get him the hell out of the building, and they did. That actually really did happen. So when he says he's done, he's done. Like you, I tried to process this all weekend long, trying to understand this entire thing, right? Because nobody wants, you'd think, nobody wants any kind of a war to escalate. And I even thought it was just a fascinating thing to watch how this all breaks down. And like I said, there is a lot out there. There's a lot of Trump supporters of people that voted for him were unhappy with the way it went. It should be more civilized. It should be. There's a lot of other people, and I would put myself in this category, where said, no, I'm kind of happy that we don't get pushed around anymore, to be completely honest with you. And the other thing is, and the other aspect of this entire thing is, it's fascinating to see how everything is flipped. It's unbelievable. Where the old hippies that really... generated the modern form of the Democratic Party. The old peace-loving hippies, the Lovestock era hippies, the generation of love, are so gung-ho for war. They're so gung-ho. So they're either completely clueless and they don't understand what's going on, or they may be compromised. I mean, honestly. So like the hippies in Vermont that protested J.D. Vance's ski trip over the weekend. Like them. That's a perfect example. Go look at the clips of that. The pre-printed signs, the old hippies that escaped to Vermont. Support Ukraine, take on Russia. Yeah, we need to support them. So you're supporting war. So you're supporting more Ukrainians dying in the front lines. Okay. Because that wasn't... Here's how I finally, yesterday, wrap this around my own head. And like I said, when you reframe this and you look at Zelensky as a completely different kind of person, you'll understand. You'll understand, and all of this makes sense when you see where he went after the White House visit. That's to me is the story, is where he went immediately after the White House visit will tell you everything. But in the White House visit, here's a guy. Now, as far as when people say that this was a rude treatment of Zelensky, okay, put it this way. This is how I justify it in my own head, right? Just imagine then, because I'm always the guy that's saying you want to understand what's going on in the world, boil it down to personal levels, like you know this guy, right? Because it'll make you understand. It'll get the propaganda and the headlines out of it, and you'll just treat it like a normal person. So imagine, if you will, Zelensky is a salesman, okay? He's like an acquaintance. Just you kind of know him. You're not that good of friends. And he shows up at your house, right? But he's got a problem. And he's got a problem with this other big bully. And he comes to you for help with the problem. And you think you have an idea of how to help the problem. You got some ideas to do this and to get him out of it. Now, it's going to cost the visitor to your house, Zelensky, a little bit of a concession. And you're going to make a deal on the side. And it's going to be a little bit painful. But what's going to happen is, you're not going to get your ass kicked, and it'll bring you peace, right? And that's what Trump was offering him. If the visitor to your house, the acquaintance, Zelensky, not only had zero interest in your idea whatsoever, he was rude about rejecting it, and he also, not only that, two other things, insisted you get involved with the fight with the bully too, more than you already have been. And throw some cash into the deal as well. Because that's exactly what happened in the most basic terms of all time. This guy comes to your house with a problem. You had an idea to fix his problem. It's going to cost him a little something. He rejects that, is rude in how he rejects it. And he also goes so far as to insist that you get involved with the fight too, and you pay some money to help the problem go away. Wouldn't you kick that person out of your house? Of course you would. And if you think of Zelensky as a salesman, right? Not as somebody that had any interest whatsoever in a peace deal, because he didn't. That's clear now. If you think of him as a salesman, just looking for the best deal possible, might be money, that might be weapon. Who knows, right? Plenty of very smart people will tell you that this is all about just extending this war and keeping it going as long as possible to keep manufacturing weapons at the cost of Ukrainians who are getting killed. They're getting slaughtered. This is a war they can't win, right? To keep it going. When you understand he's a salesman, it makes perfect sense. Where did he go after the White House? That deal fell apart. Didn't get anything yet. Where do you go? You go to the fools that will actually take your deal and who you actually can push around. Who are we talking about? The European Union. And he went first and foremost right to the UK. This is the most unbelievable statement that has gone nowhere. It's absolutely quiet. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer actually made a press conference after the meeting with Zelensky and actually said this. And no one's talking about it.
The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air.
Huh?
Together with others. Europe must do the heavy lifting.
What? He just said boots on the ground. Well, he didn't commit to that, really. You just said what we never wanted to say, what we never said in the press conference. Planes in the air and boots on the ground. That's the biggest threat since this whole frickin' thing started to Russia with their next door neighbors. And this is the danger. And this is what people are rooting for, really. So the salesman Zelensky gets rejected on his first try with the U.S., probably, by the way, knowing he would. So he goes to the next likely victim, the UK, and gets them to cave for whatever the hell reason. When you see him as a salesman, he makes a hell of a lot more sense. That's why he had zero interest in anything we had to say. But now apparently he's all in favor of the minerals deal. So, well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Zelensky goes back to the Trump White House and says, okay, your deals for minerals and peace plan, now that we have UK money, will work. I hope Trump says, no, go to hell. You had your chance. You rude little, you know what? Unbelievable. God. Think of him as a salesman and somebody you know in your personal life. It makes a lot more sense, that guy. Because that's what he is, basically. All right. Let's talk about Mayor Wuhan. I love that nickname. It's not exactly fair, but when you hear her talk, you'll understand. Now, I'm from the Boston area. I still have most of my family up there, so I follow a lot of those news stories and how far down the woke hole the city of Boston, Massachusetts, all of the Northeast has fallen. I actually have people ask me, it's like, what's wrong with your home state? Like, how do they still vote these people in? Elizabeth Warren's from Massachusetts, Ed Markey, two of the stupidest senators in America, and the mayor of Boston, which determines all of Massachusetts' voting, by the way. Mayor Wu, Michelle Wu. She probably is, she's been the one that actually said, Tom Homan, the ICE director, we're going to protect our illegal immigrants. We're going to protect them here. Well, that's been a regional thing, and they've been trying to oust her for a long time. Everybody up there is aware of her. Now the country is aware of her, and you may have seen this clip already, probably. Now she's in trouble, because now she finally said something so offensive and stupid that the entire nation has a spotlight on her office, and it was this. It happened on Saturday. Boy, so much happened over the weekend. On Saturday, in Copley Place in Boston, a very beautiful, area. A lot of money in that area of Boston. So this kind of stuff usually didn't happen. Some lunatic, for whatever reason, a knife-wielding lunatic, was chasing two people down the street in Copley Square. And the two people ran as fast as they could, and they ducked into a Chick-fil-A, because everybody loves God's chicken sandwich. But they run into there to try to get some safety and to try to have somebody call the cops for help, right? The knife-wielding lunatic follows them in there. Well, lo and behold, thankfully, there was an off-duty Boston cop in the Chick-fil-A at the time. Takes out his weapon, and he told the lunatic to drop the knife. He didn't, so the cop blew the lunatic away, right? And that's where our story begins. Now, you'd think that the mayor on the scene, heat of the moment, I get it, but that's where you see what people are really like. You'd think she would thank the cops. So sorry this happened in this area. We're going to do our best to beef up security. No. She didn't even thank the police until way after. Her first line of thought, we're so sorry, and our condolences to the family of the attacker who lost his life. Honest to God. Don't believe me?
My condolences and all of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost.
All of our thoughts are with the family of the individual whose life has been lost. You know who the individual was? A knife-wielding attacker who would have killed these two people if they didn't happen to luck into finding a Chick-fil-A and an off-duty cop inside. You absolute crooked lunatic. But here's the good news. Sometimes a story is so infuriating that it puts national attention. And this local report of this Mayor Wu got so much. This was one of the trending, the biggest out of Ukraine. Aside from Ukraine, this was one of the biggest trending stories in the nation. And that's a good thing. As infuriating as that is, as the twisted, lunatic mind virus is, when something this stupid comes out, it puts a lot of attention on. And I'm not good at predictions. I try not to make them because they hardly ever turn out to be right. But I would bet you, if I was a betting person, I would bet you that with now the national support and everybody saying, what's wrong with this mayor? Who elected her? Feeling for the attacker's family? I would bet you now that there's national support, you're going to see ICE storming this week into Boston. We'll see if it comes true. I don't know. But sometimes a story is so infuriating that the end result is actually a good thing. Because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Well, it was heat of the moment. She was on the scene. Yeah, so what? That's when you find out what people are really like. Unbelievable. All right. First takeaway, again, and I say this all the time because it's how I wrap my head around things. You're confused about the Ukraine thing? You're confused about these news stories? Personalize them. Take it personally and pretend that the characters in the news, the usual suspects, are people in your life. And you see them acting that way. Would you tolerate it? That's how you understand what's going on. That's always the mainstay takeaway. Along with this, take any crap from anybody. Whew, it's only Monday. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you as always. And don't forget the audio podcast. Posted about 9 a.m. Eastern Time, wherever you like to get those, and you audio-only listeners, and apparently there's a lot of you just like to listen on audio, join us for the live stream every once in a while, right here on X and YouTube and Facebook and all that good stuff. Who the heck knows what's going to happen tomorrow? We'll see. We'll find out. With that, have a wicked awesome Monday. I'll talk to you tomorrow.